mic on? Does that sound a little better? We're glad to see everybody here tonight. This is a combined session, work session and council meeting. We were not able to have a work session this month because a lot of folks were out of town. But we will get to it post haste, and first thing we're going to do is the invocation. And believe it or not, I got a call at 5:30 in the midst of shaving from a pastor telling me he was out of town. So, you get the delight of having me do the invocation tonight. Isn't that great? Got a slide up here? That should do it. Is that better? Okay, got a couple of blessings tonight, if we could. For the council, for civil servants, for the folks that work for our city. Thank you, Lord, for all our civil servants. Thank you for their hard work and sacrifices. May you continually bless them. May you generously give to each of them wise and discerning hearts to skillfully govern the people in our city. Give the mayor, city leaders, staff, and city council wisdom so that they may solve problems, distinguish between right and wrong, and bring order, stability, and prosperity to our community. Amen. Now I have one other. This is for the citizens of our city. Lord, give us a heart of wisdom. May your wisdom produce in us creative ideas, solutions to problems, new technologies and products. May you give us sound counsel and good judgment to help us make good decisions. May you also give us greater knowledge, understanding, and power so that we may live skillfully and give back what is good and excellent to our community. Amen. Thank you so much. Who in here is a veteran? Come on up front. What'd you think? I had a bag of money?
No, I just figured there'd be other veterans too.
Well, that's okay. We're all veterans of certain boards. Are you ready to help me lead the pledge of allegiance?
Yes.
Good to see you. Ready? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. This boy's so tough.
It wasn't bad.
Bag of money's in your palm.
Okay.
Okay, and we're going to, can we have a motion to adopt the agenda or to add or deduct anything from the agenda, please? Okay, have a motion to adopt the agenda. We have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Agenda is adopted. And with that said, I'd like to ask our copy lady to come up front. And there's two big dates in this lady's next few months, and that is November the 11th, 2022, and the 26th day of May, 23. So I'm just going to read this real quickly. You want to read it? Whereas America is a land of freedom, preserved and protected willingly and freely by citizen soldiers. Whereas millions who have answered the call to arms have died on the field of battle. Whereas a nation at peace must be reminded of the price of war and the debt owed to those who have died in war. Whereas the red poppy has been designated as a symbol of sacrifice of lives in all wars. And whereas the American Legion Auxiliary has pledged to remind Americans annually of the debt big deals is we should have a big deal going on Veterans Day. People have given their life, given their ultimate sacrifice. Usually we have a big event, we're going to have one this year at the American Legion. It's on the 11th month, the 11th day, at the 11th hour. We get together, have a ceremony, recognizing those people who have given their ultimate sacrifice. And then Tim Stewart sponsors a lunch for everyone. And we've heard that no free lunch. This one's a free lunch. However, you do have to be in attendance. We're not delivering free lunch. So please mark your calendar. I would love to see the American Legion completely packed. I would love to see us run out of food. I would love for the people in the community to come out and just say thank you. Because being fair, had many of those people not given their lives, we might be speaking German today. So, just a thought. And we're glad to have you with us. You know, you came and do these copies for a donation thing.
Well, any money we collect goes to help veterans who have been injured in the line of duty or their families. So we do appreciate it. Yes. Being from Mowing County, Georgia, is very important. Many of you know and heard of the name of Michaels. She went over to Europe after World War II and saw poppies planted in the fields on graves. In Walton County, we need to do this work because she was from Good Hope, Georgia. So last year, one of the things that we did, we started an agricultural program at two of the high schools in Loganville. And at the end of the year, a child looked at me and said, "We learned all about Melina Michaels this year." So it made a difference.
So enough to pay for my pocket. That was great.
Thank you for having me. And thank you for that.
Okay, we do have a visitor with us, and it's Miss Sherry Bailey, who is I left my folder at the other place. Hold on one second. Sherry is the member service consultant for the Georgia Municipal Association. And she lives in Washington, Georgia. So I thought we'd give her an opportunity to pass out the little report from the DCA and also give her an opportunity just for a few words as she stated it. So we shall see if she's a person of her word or not. Did you leave one at my place? Okay, very good. Sherry? Sherry Bailey.
Thank you, Mayor.
Sure.
Oh, okay. There we go. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for having me, Mayor and Council. As he said, my name is Sherry Bailey. I'm a member services consultant. I've been with GMA since January of 2020. Prior to being with GMA, I was actually a city manager in Washington, Georgia, which is in Wilkes County. So my background is local government, and I love all things local government. So I am happy to be here tonight. I did pass out this packet, and inside of it, you will see your service report. And in that service report are most of all of the services that GMA offers. And if it has a check mark beside it, then that is a service that y'all participate in. And if you ever have any questions about anything, or there's a program that you're not participating in, which I did put some information in your packet about a couple, please reach out to me. I am your go-to person for GMA. We started in 1937. We were a legislative advocate for all Georgia cities, and all 537 Georgia cities are a member of GMA. And so we're here for you, for all things. So if you ever need anything, you have any kind of legislative issues, anything that you know that's coming down from the state level that you would like to address, please let us know. Any of the programs that you participate in that you have any issues with, of course, call me and let me know. I put my card in there. I am your person, and I will help you in any way that I can. And I'm just happy to be here to see everybody at one time and for you to put a face with those emails that you get every Monday. So thank you, Mayor.
Very good, Sherry. Thank you for being with us tonight. And we do a lot with Georgia Municipal Association. Are you Randy Meacham's counterpart? He does Gwinnett County, doesn't he? Yeah. Yeah, we see him occasionally too, since our city bridges those two counties.
Yeah, Sherry's helped us with ARP, the ARPA funds. It was lost. They've helped. Retirement. Me and Christy spend a lot of time.
Mhm.
She definitely helps the city. Before we ain't always had that good of a contact, but Sherry, she's pretty helpful with, especially with what I do. Thank you. So thank you.
And I guess the next logical question is, Sherry, do you have a check for us tonight?
No, but I do have a big check ready for y'all, so as soon as y'all apply for some of those grants, we'll bring it.
Good, thank you. Appreciate you being here. Okay, we need a motion to approve the meeting minutes that's in your package. Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, minutes are approved. We need to do the same thing for the September financial report that's also in our packets. We need a motion to approve.
So moved.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Financial report is approved. Danny, what category does this next item come under? Contract approvals, comfort systems? Is that yours, or?
That's not the update account.
Yeah, that, it can go under finance.
Is that fair, Ann? Okay. All right. Then we'll move into the committee reports, and we'll go first to Planning and Development Committee. Linda Dodd.
Thank you, Mayor. We have two things under my agenda today. First of all, the tree ordinance. I had a committee meeting which consisted of myself, Brandon, and Melanie, and we talked about drafting a tree ordinance to help save some of our big trees in Loganville so that developers can't just come in and just clear the lands off. So I'm not the expert on it, but I have two people that are, Danny and Tim. So Danny, if you want to come forward. Well, you're close to it, so you know a lot, you've studied a lot more than I have on it. So Danny's going to explain some of the things that we talked about, and then if you have any questions, you're welcome to ask him questions.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Yeah, we had a committee meeting last week, talk about the issue is saving trees. The biggest concern that the committee had was developers coming in, doing a clear cut, taking down trees that were considered rare. We had a development off of Logan Drive that took a special tree down that could have been saved if we'd had this ordinance in place. We looked at 5 different ordinances from 5 different governments, some county, some local governments, and they're from one end to the other end as far as what you can and can't do. I think the committee kind of agreed on looking at the size of a tree for hardwoods, and hardwoods are in different specimens of trees, but they're considered hardwood, and then you have softwood. So for hardwood, the committee would like to see anything 24 inches from point A to point B, so not a circumference or a diameter, but the width of the tree is anything 24 inches or more would be saved. There would be exemptions to that. It's like if utilities went through the area, they could remove the tree. If the tree had 30% decay that was certified by an arborist or a landscape architect, they could be removed, or they would be fined. And one of the things we talked about was we didn't want to make this a money-making thing for the city, but more of a tree preservation for the city. But we do have to have some language in there that says if you do cut this tree down, you would be penalized. That's something that we're working with Precision Planning also to come up with a tree ordinance. They're currently working on it. They've been working on it. And hopefully between me, Tim, and Precision, we can have an ordinance ready by November, maybe December, to present to the council to address all your concerns. So tonight is to kind of hear the other councils' thoughts on this, what they would like to see, not see. We didn't make it towards residential property. We made it for anything that require a certain permit, like a land disturbance permit, for different zonings. If you did have a residential property that was changed into zonings and they removed the trees while they were zoned residential, they would have to wait, I believe we said 24 months until they could apply for a rezone. That was another issue that the committee would like to see in the ordinance. So this is more about just saving the large diameter trees, the specialty trees, and then for the softwood, I believe we said 36 inches from the width of a tree would be saved unless it met those certain criterias. If they took it down, then there's a system that they would have to plant a number of trees to equal that mass. If you was look at Gwinnett counties, they have a calculation for a tree that if it's 3 inches in diameter, it equals so many units. So example would be if you had a 28-inch width tree, it would be, say, 32 units. So you would have to plant 32 units of new trees to make that one tree. Also, we talked about you would preserve any new trees or any current trees. You would have to protect what's called the drip line. So pretty much the canopy straight down the root structure. They would have to put a fence around it, protect it. If they damaged it, they would have to replace it. And also that would also carry 24 months after development was complete. So it would be part of their bond. So if the tree died, they had to replace it. If they failed to replace it, we could use part of that bond money to replace those trees. So we're working also on calculation to come up with number of trees to equal certain sizes of trees. Something I did this week that we didn't have for the committee is I called an arborist, and the rate for 10 acres to survey is about $1,000 to $1,500 for arborists to come out and do a survey of the trees at 10 acres roughly. Now, they charge by an hour, of course, and it's $150 an hour. Unless they have to do a legal document, then that doubles the cost. So just in general, you're looking at $1,500 or so, up to 10 acres. So if you have a 100-acre tract, just times it by 10, and that's what we're paying. So a little over $15,000 that we would also put on the developer to pay that cost. It would be a pass-on cost like we do our other engineering now. It's just a pass-on that we give to the developer, and they just pay that as well. Did I miss anything, the committee, that was on there? Is that pretty much the highlights?
Well,
Tim, did I miss anything?
the one thing that I remember, Danny, is that we did say that an arborist had to be a certified arborist.
Yes.
And some of these companies may have some on their payroll.
Yep. So, yes, thank you, Mayor. So the way it works, the developer would come in, we would require a tree plan. They would have to consult with an arborist or a landscape architect to do a survey of the trees and identify those trees that y'all identify as protection class. They would submit that plan to Tim or to planning with their land disturbance permit, and then I would imagine, we talked about this in great detail, either we take their word of the third-party arborist or we hire an arborist to validate what they turn in, which Tim and I feels that's probably what we should do, just validate. Because they are getting paid from the developer, so we need to validate what they say is true, and go from there. But there has to be some type of penalty if they do remove the tree. We highly encourage them not to, but sometimes, they'd rather pay the fine to build on it. Talking with the engineer today in Gwinnett County, they have a 6-acre tract, and the developer came in and cut every tree down and paid over $100,000. But they wanted to develop that land for mixed-use development. So there's no way to, I assume you could say you couldn't cut the tree down, but I think every ordinance I read has a penalty if you do that. So if you choose to, this is what it's gonna cost. In Gwinnett, to cut a 36-inch tree, Tim? In Gwinnett County, they give an example in their ordinance. A 36-inch tree is $27,000 for that one tree. So.
And I think the committee spoke this week that while it's not to make money, it certainly needs to be something in place to get the developer's attention.
And there's, like I said, we talked about different ways we could do it. We could do it per tree, anything over a certain size. Tim would like to see per unit where you could have so many units of tree per acres. But like we said before, if they have a creek bottom or river going through our land, that's automatically 50 feet of undisturbed buffers they could do. They could count those trees and then clear cut the other remaining land, but they would meet the units of trees per acre. So there's different ways to do it. So we're gonna kind of look at that and present to what we think, and maybe give you two options to look at, to consider in November or December. Any questions?
So did I understand, the city would actually hire the arborist and just do the charge too?
Well, initially, we would require the developer to present a tree plan that identifies all the trees. And then what I would imagine is we would hire a independent arborist to go out and validate what they turn in. So they would go out and look at where they identify the trees and survey them. If they identify trees that say, hey, this tree is 40% rotten, we need to remove it, they would also give us that report of yes or no.
And then, let's say, on the mitigation where you said that they could, if they took a tree and had to provide so many units of replacement, where would those replacements be?
They would be required somewhere on their property. Now, in Gwinnett, you can plant them in different areas. They have what they call tree zone designation areas for other properties they could go plant. They have a tree bank fund that if they get fined, that money goes into a separate fund, and then they turn around and use that money and plant trees. The county does at parks, fire stations, libraries, greenway, or green belts they call them, or parks. But as you know, Gwinnett County has a lot more parks than we do. So,
I have a question. In addition to funding or instead of funding, fining, could we add something like if they clear cut everything, that they had to stop work for 6 months or 3 months? Because that's really where it hurts more than their pocketbook. Is that, I don't know if
I
that's
don't know if
possible.
that's Robin or Tim that answer that question. I know if they cut a tree down and didn't tell us, you'd put a stop work order, and then they would have to go through the court system.
But like you and I talked, like if Gwinnett really has this ordinance, the same ordinance we're looking at, how did they clear cut everything on Grayson Highway? And it's
Well, they
'cause-
also have a creek back there, so they might have
maybe.
got
But
tree per
just
use. Yes,
paying-
they can pay for them, yes.
Yeah,
'cause
but
I asked the
just
same
paying
question.
for it just doesn't,
Right.
that's the, I guess, the letter of the law, but not
Yeah.
the spirit.
Yeah,
Agreed.
I don't know if you could
Agreed.
put a stop work order as a penalty.
Yeah,
I
as a
know all the
penalty.
fines have to be, fines, of course, based on our municipal judge. So if he overturns it, then there's nothing much we can do.
Of course.
So Robin, can you put a stop? So the question is, if they go out and clear cut and it's against the ordinance, can you put in the ordinance that you'll be stopped for 6 months?
I don't see why you couldn't do that.
Like a penalty in addition to, like instead of financial, let's hit them where it hurts.
I agree. I would think you would be able to do that. The other thing that I'm curious about with the one that was clear cut that you mentioned and they paid $100,000, the way the city's fine works, if it's a code violation, it's $1,000, I believe, every day of the violation. So it'd be interesting to see how they would even be able to cure that because the violation's already happened. Does that make any sense? We might have to put a cap on.
So the way Gwinnett does is they say this tree equals, it was 96 trees. So 96 trees times $250 was the 26,000. There wasn't a fine. That was the calculation based on the number of trees it would cost to replace. Is that right, Tim?
Yes, it's not a fine. They have a tree bank, what they call it, and they can pay to take that tree down. So if they decided to, they could calculate that money and pay to clear cut the property. They're just paying that tree bank versus, it's not necessarily a code violation fine. That is an option in the ordinance they have.
And I don't think you would have to include that option in your ordinance if you don't want to. If you don't want to give them the opportunity to pay into a tree bank or per tree or something like that, that is something you could consider and not allow.
Well, I'm not trying to go after anybody that's really trying to meet what we're trying to do, which is save the trees. But if you've got a developer that wants to come in and clear cut 50 acres and take it out and pay $100,000, Can we do a fine or a tree bank and a stop work?
I don't think you could do both. You could certainly set the cost of that buyout, for lack of a better term, to be higher than whatever Gwinnett is charging. Do you see what I'm saying? To
Yes,
make
you
it
wanna-
hit their
More painful.
wallet a bit more. I mean,
Right.
You
you
wanna
all
make
as the
it-
city
you-
have the discretion to set that.
Yeah, you want to make it financially unfeasible for them to cut the trees down,
Right, right.
basically, yeah.
Okay. And also, this is not residential. I just want to make sure that, I mean, if you have a lot and you want to cut your trees down as much as it pains me, this is only for people that want to get a permit, correct?
Yes, unless it was a residential lot that got a land disturbance permit to add a new house.
Okay.
It was for that, correct, right?
Well, the only thing we did talk about on that was that, let's say I have a piece of property and I have a lot of trees, but I know that I'm eventually gonna sell that because I can build more houses there. And while I'm the owner of the house, I can go in and cut all those trees down. So what we're gonna do is we would require anybody to come in, what was it, a $25
Yes,
permit to
that was
come in and
another
cut a
thing.
tree down, so that we have a paper trail. So Melanie cuts all her trees down today. I cannot rezone my property for 2 years from that. So what we're doing is we're kind of preventing them, like, they got a workaround. If a
If I
homeowner,
want to cut my tree down,
you can go, no, you can,
but I have to get a tree permit?
$25.
I-
It's for a paper trail, but that's the only way to keep up with it, because like Brandon said,
I believe it's only for the bigger trees, though, that are over the 24 inches, correct? Or is it for
I thought it
all
was
trees?
for, I mean, we're not
No, it's
shrubs, we're not
for
doing.
anything in
any-
that category, yes.
Anything in that category.
And we talked
So
about
if you
not-
had like a smaller tree,
Right.
you wouldn't have to, but if it's a bigger, more historic tree, then you would have
Our
to.
specialty tree.
Or
Or
specialty
specialty
tree.
tree.
I don't think I would, I think I'm fine with the developers, but not for people, not for residents. I mean, like, so what, let me play devil's advocate. I have a big pine tree in my backyard, and I'm afraid it's gonna fall on my house, and it's 36 inches. So I have to hire an arborist?
No, you
No.
come pay your
You just
$25
gotta get a
permit and
permit
cut your tree
to
down.
remove it.
And
You can
then who's gonna police that? Like, it's gonna fall on my house, so I'm afraid and I'm gonna cut it down. Then
It's
what
a-
happens?
Yeah, it'll be, the only reason the permit process was brought up, so we could keep a timeline of when you did it. Now, we know people are gonna, do things without permits, and we'll never know.
Right.
And if it happens, there's no enforcement side of that. It's just, like a fence permit, we ask people to get fence, but a lot of people build fences without
Right.
permits. So it's more of a timeline, it's more for your larger residential tracts, your, more than 1 acre that you may develop. Because it would be a workaround from this ordinance. If I was a resident, I could remove all my trees and nothing happens to me because I'm residential, and then I turn around and rezone it for a, say, a R22 overlay district to get more houses.
No, I mean, how many tracks do we have that would fit that bill?
Handful.
Yeah, I just can't see hog tying the residents for a $25 tree permit. to
It
prevent-
don't have to be 25. It would just, that's the number that came, it can be 0. You can just say, you just gotta get a permit so we can
I
keep
don't
track.
think I don't think they should have to have a permit.
That's
That's
just,
just
yeah, what the
since we're up for
committee-
discussion, that would be something I would not support.
I
So,
took out a lot of my pine trees around my house for that same reason, because I don't want them
Right.
to fall.
Right.
That's definitely something, if y'all don't want that, we cannot, the more y'all can tell me now, the better this ordinance will be when we present it, so we're not going back from month to month changing it, so.
Just to be clear, and whatever we do, we can set this on the sides of the property, we could do all that
Yeah,
thing.
we can say
We can
anything
make it
larger
just-
than 5 acres,
We can just make it hardwood,
10 acres.
but the goal was to try, if I'm listening to the committee right, was to try to close a loophole where a developer come to you and say, hey, I can't cut these trees down, but I'll buy your property if you'll cut them all down before I buy the property. That's the loophole they're trying to close, but, so,
I know, and I know where we're going. I understand. I don't think it's right to tell people what they can and can't do with their own property. I mean,
Unless it's
on a tree,
developer's
I mean,
property.
huh?
Unless it's a developer's property.
Yeah, I mean, if they're trying to develop and get a permit, that's one thing, but
Yeah.
Would you like to see like a larger size land? Would that be better? Because the only reason I'm saying, if you don't, well, I don't know how many residentials, we have one, I know that's zoned residential, and that's a pretty sized tract. And they could, right now, if y'all didn't want that, they would cut the trees down, and there's nothing,
And there's some very large trees on that piece
Right.
of property.
I mean, could you, could you put it in there without a permit and then, but I thought there was a 2-year thing, that if they cut the trees, that they would not.
Right, that's the whole reason we would do that, but without that, we would have no way of tracking them when they cut them down.
You could just walk the property. Could you not add that to the ordinance and just, I mean, if whatever property you're talking about, and I don't know what it is, clear cut their property and then came for a rezone, could we not go out there and say, hey, you guys cut these trees, and in our ordinance it says you can't have recent tree growth? I mean.
Yeah, but I don't know if we could do a timeline that says, oh, this tree was cut down 18 months, or was it 24 months, or was it 12 months ago?
And then I'd fall into like selective permitting, you know, or like, oh, you can't do that, but my neighbor did it, you know, kind of deal. But it'd be hard to
Yeah.
police unless we asked everybody to do it.
If you don't want to target I see where you're going, and maybe we say residential tracts larger than 10 acres, or 20 acres, or 50 acres.
Right.
And then that would exclude 99% of the residential
That's true.
property in the city.
But if you had a 5-acre tract, you could still clear that, and so,
Yep. I mean, there's some out there, but it's not a lot of, Tim, is there a lot of land zoned residential that's not developed already? I know you have one next month coming that's probably 10 acres. And they have some nice trees on there.
Right.
But it's not even in the city, but they're gonna ask for annexation, but they're zoned residential. So if you didn't do that, then they would be able to cut the trees down. Just telling you all the facts so you'll know, so you're like, dang, Danny, I wish you just said there was a loophole here. So that's why it came up.
No, I mean, I know what we're trying to do, I just
Yeah.
don't want to overreach.
Right, I agree
think
with
we
you.
have to be really
Yeah,
careful.
I would
That's
say
all.
residential property more than 10 acres, you know, you have to have a permit. Or you can say if you're gonna clear cut, you have to have a permit. Or remove so much
Just
of
be
your
precise.
trees. So what would y'all like to see?
Okay, tonight, are you looking for a motion to proceed with the sign ordinance or continue discussing it?
Tree ordinance.
Tree ordinance, that's what I meant,
Yeah.
yeah. We've done signs so many times.
Yes. Can I ask a question real quick before we go there? In the ordinances that you looked at, Danny, did they have this prohibition against rezoning for a certain amount of time?
It was 24 months. If a residential property, and I believe it was Gwinnett's, was to clear cut or do what they call timber thinning, they would not be eligible for a rezone for 24 months.
Okay, thank you.
Was that Gwinnett, Tim? Decatur? Okay. I knew it was somebody.
Okay, thanks.
You know, we may go 1 year, we may go whatever y'all want to do. This is just trying to develop an ordinance.
I've seen in some cities, when I was looking around, they do have historic trees, but you'd have to have somebody come in and declare them historic beforehand, and you'd have to have a tree board kind of deal, and they could not cut those trees down if ands or but, they'd have to leave those trees. But we'd have to have preferably a tree board, you come in and say, that tree's historic, and mark it like that, so and that's how they kind of save some of their bigger trees.
On personal property? Or on city property?
Citywide.
Maybe citywide.
A lot of them are citywide. Like Decatur had a 60%, you had to maintain 60% of your canopy in the entire city. But also, that's another way to calculate trees by canopy size. It's just extremely complicated. That's why we didn't go that route.
Yeah, I remember living in the city of Atlanta. I couldn't cut
Atlanta has a very strict.
Yeah. Atlanta's
anything
real strict.
on my
I read
property
theirs.
without having the city arborist come out there.
I would like to keep it as simple as possible.
Me too.
Because we don't have the staff that some of these entities have. I mean, Gwinnett has landscape architects, arborists. We're gonna have to sub all this out, even if we can get one.
Well, I mean, so I know we don't want to get in the weeds, but I got another question. So let's say that we do this, I'm sorry. We have this tree board, right? And I know we're not talking about it, but let's say we have a tree board and we do this thing and we say, Janice Tribble, the tree in your backyard is a historical tree and you can't cut it down. And then it takes her roof out, God forbid, who's responsible?
Well, I think what I read, a lot of the rulings, they will actually have to examine the tree. It has to have a viability, they have to be able to show that that tree can live for another 15 years. And
Right.
and so,
But lightning takes the tree out. And seriously, who's responsible for that? If we tell a resident, and I'm not picking, you know that. I mean, but seriously, Brandon, it's my house. You can't cut down that 48-inch pine because it's huge and it's a historical tree. I know a pine wouldn't be,
Yeah,
but
I
it
was
takes
just
my
giving
roof out, so
examples.
do we increase liability insurance? I mean,
The way it works between neighbors usually is if your neighbor has a big tree that you're concerned about, you say, put something in their mailbox in writing that says, hey, I think that tree has a problem. They're then on notice, they have to go get an arborist to inspect the tree and make sure it's okay. If they don't do that and that tree falls on your property, then that is their problem. Meaning there are situations all the time where people have to get arborists, to look at trees and provide an opinion, that sort of thing. But I understand that that is asking the property owner to incur additional costs before they can remove the tree.
That's why I would just like to keep it for land disturbance permits.
yeah, I just don't think we need to touch the residential.
But it would, if a residential came and got a land disturbance permit to build a new
Yeah,
house.
I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that.
Then they would have to, but that's,
I just
do
don't
it
know
by
that we-
zoning. If
Yeah.
you're in this zoning, you cannot just clear cut.
Yes.
And exclude, so it's commercial, PUV,
Yes, that I would
multifamily,
support. I just,
stuff like high density zoning, but you can say R22, R44, R16, they're exempt.
maybe we do it by zoning. I think that that's even maybe better. I just don't feel like we need to get anybody in here to get a permit to cut down a tree on a residential
Tim
lot.
wants to speak.
Sorry, Tim, I'm sorry.
Is that what you were gonna say? Yep, that's the way most of them do it, right, by zoning? Okay. Conyers was another one, I think they do it by zoning as well.
I mean, we can't get homeowners associations to do their detention ponds. I mean, and now we're gonna, I think we just have to be realistic and not put our staff in a greater,
You're right.
that's all.
Yeah, this is just mainly just keeping the developers from coming in and just taking the bulldozer and clear cutting. I think that was the intent behind this.
But I think though, too, I mean, the 24 months to me is spot on. But as far as, if something comes up in a zoning issue in planning and zoning, they're gonna go look at the property. If they see a bunch of trees that have been cut down or whatever, and they notice, they could at that point, when that comes up, they can ask them, do you have receipts for it? Let's see the time frame. I mean, yeah, they may not have it. Well, okay, we can, we can
that's a
do
good
an
point.
investigation at that point and kind of have an idea if they were cut down within 24 months.
So we could put it on a rezoning application.
Yeah.
Have you cut any trees down in the last 24 months?
Yeah.
Maybe that would keep from doing a permit.
I like that.
Right, Tim? Can we do
I
that?
like that.
Yes, we could put that question on
Right,
the
but-
zoning applications.
Whether they tell the truth or not, it's a different story.
And you could also put something in the rezoning, in the zoning ordinance saying you are not allowed to approach or, ask for a rezone and you will not be approved if you have cut trees down in the last 2 years or whatever it is. Right?
Yes, we could.
Is a
I think the-
criteria of rezoning,
I
for
think
example.
the issue is gonna be defining when the trees were cut down if we didn't know about it. And I think that's gonna be a legal issue that we're gonna run into.
And-
If they've cut trees down and we say, well, you can't rezone for 24 months, and they're saying they cut the trees down 30 months ago, I mean, how do we prove they didn't? And I think that'll be a legal issue we would run into.
Is the
Could
burden-
we- Could we put in there, it maybe not like tree per tree, but if you clear cut, then you cannot. Or tree thinning, like if they take down one tree or one tree falls and they take it out of there, how are we gonna know if it was diseased or not? But we could obviously tell
still-
if they clear cut.
You're still gonna run into the issue of the time frame of when the trees were cut.
Could an arborist look at the area
I
that, or
don't
the
know
trees
if-
that have been cut and be able to opine as
I
to
don't-
whether they were diseased and what the time
I
frame?
don't know if an arborist could look at a stump and tell you how long ago it was cut down with any accuracy,
Well, we do have Google Maps. I'm
Yeah.
not being dumb. If we did it by zoning type, right, so like R22, all the residential neighborhoods were exempt, and you did everything by zoning type had to have a land disturbance. And then one of the questions in the zoning for rezone can say, we can ask them the question, and then we can look at it on the Google Maps, because those update within 2 years. And then part of the questions can be, well, did you get a land disturbance permit? And if they didn't, then they can't rezone, they can't do a rezone from the date of the application, or something like that.
Yeah, land disturbance permit is not required for tree removal, though. So I don't think we need to worry about this too much. We're just gonna, take them at their word, because we're not talking about a lot of cases here.
Yeah, then I
I
don't,
mean,
then
I
I
think
don't
we
want to make
just
a
put it
mountain
out there,
out of
and if it's on them, and, if it's a decent-sized property, I think staff and all of us is gonna realize that, hey, this property was full of trees last month, and now it's
No,
cut. Yeah, so,
And I would really like to have an acreage tied to that.
I think that's great.
Anything over
yeah, I would say
5 acres,
more than 5.
you have to have a tree removal permit to cut down trees.
Okay.
You could tie the acreage to whatever's required for a subdivision, right? Like the minimum amount that you could have.
But that's going to exempt a lot of commercial properties, because commercial properties are not as big as residential properties.
But you could differentiate the acreage requirement between the different zoning.
Well, there was a piece of property on my street that was a little over 3 acres, and there were some gigantic trees on that, and they just cut them all down and built 3 houses in there, so.
Yeah, that's what I mean, whatever the minimum
So
amount.
that wouldn't be a subdivision, but that would just, they've divided them into 3 lots. A couple of them.
yeah, they're still considered hardwoods. Yeah, that's still considered hardwoods. Yeah. So.
So how would it work if we said all developers and residential properties over 5 acres? Or 3 acres?
Did you say Precision's gonna help you with this? They will probably be able to brainstorm some of this, too.
We'll just take all these ideas and
Yeah,
send them to
take
them
the
and come up
notes.
with something that's enforceable and manageable, and then come back to you. Okay.
Okay, any other questions?
Don't you?
Okay. So do you need us to do any kind of voting on this, Danny? I know the committee gave you permission to.
No, because the price for this was within my limit.
Okay.
There was, you know what, be safe, because he may send me a contract, just say to create a tree ordinance. So I would like to have a motion to proceed with creating a tree ordinance.
Okay.
Not to exceed.
Okay. With the amount not to.
Well, just
exceed?
give me permission to create an ordinance.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, all right. Okay, I make a motion that we go ahead with getting the tree ordinance, and that we also give Precision Planning permission to help with this tree ordinance.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second? Okay, we have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, carried.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else, Linda?
Yeah, one more thing.
Okay.
We need to discuss the development permit, I can't say that word. Moratorium. So I'll let Danny talk about that too, while we need to talk about it.
Yep, so with that tree ordinance, we need to go ahead and ask you to put a moratorium on issuing land disturbance permits for 90 days. This would, people could still allow to rezone, to annex, but they would not be allowed to pull a permit to do land clearing until we have this tree ordinance in place. This is a 90-day moratorium. And if we get the tree ordinance done in November, you certainly can remove that moratorium, or if we're not done in February, you can certainly extend it. So, any questions on that?
But we talked about 90 days would get us away from January, which is always a hectic month, and at least get us to where we make decisions come February council meeting. But
Can we make it less?
well, the deal is you can put it on and take it off at any time you decide.
Yeah, we can always change it, and we can do 90.
I mean, we could say
and
60
then-
and increase it if you.
Yeah, if we get done in December and said, here's the ordinance, present it to y'all, and y'all say it's good, at that time, you can say, I'll make a motion that we lift the moratorium now.
I was just saying if we did 60, then it'd be by the end of the year. Just, you know,
Well, if we
make
did
sure.
it longer though, and I would rather have it longer and we could take it off than having to go back and vote again to extend it. I mean, that's where I was thinking. I think that's where we thought in the committee meeting.
I don't think it'll take 90 days. I can't promise that, but
Well, our goal is to have it back in November, but we'll also have holidays too. But you can certainly lift it whenever you want. No, I'm sorry, we're in November next month. Yeah, November next month, we'll try to have it ready.
Okay, you need a motion to whatever,
Okay,
Linda,
so
whatever.
Whatever days
I
you
make a
want.
motion that we extend this for 90 days, and then if we need to come back and change it, we can come back and change it at a later date if our tree ordinance comes in place before that happens.
Okay, so we have a motion for a 90-day moratorium on development. Most of the process is usually 60 days or more anyway. And that can be adjusted either direction as the council sees fit. So do we have a second?
Could you add land disturbance to that as well? It would be land disturbance and development permits.
Got that, Linda?
Okay, yes, okay, so I would like to add land disturbance and also development permits to fall within this 90-day period. Is that correct?
Okay. So we have a revised motion. Do we have a second? Okay, we have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Opposed.
Okay. We have Ann opposing.
So, you didn't say this discussion.
Okay.
Danny,
Yes.
so, moving on to my part, will that affect anything with, okay, okay.
Well, they wouldn't be able to pull permits, but they can still, yeah, you can still ask for annexation and rezonings. You just can't pull a permit.
And
But it's
again,
not gonna affect stormwater.
that can be adjusted either way as we go down the process road. Okay, Linda, anything else?
No, sir, I think that's enough.
Okay, thank you, Linda. We appreciate that. And we'll move to Finance, Human Resources. Ann Hunsinger.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There is a comfort system, I have nothing on here, but the comfort system, I guess, was, I don't know.
It's
Anyway, it's not in your packet, even though it's referred to in
It
your
is.
packet. It's not my packet. Not in my printed packet. Anyway, I'm looking at it online, on there. It is for maintenance for the condenser water and heat pumps, 3 of those. And there's a cost to that of $78.95. Where is it, Danny?
what page
Where,
number?
is this unit here?
It's this whole building.
This whole building?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is
It's right,
annual.
it's the big, thank you.
It's our boiler room, condensing tower, hydrant, water source, equipment,
Got it. And then we're adding the operational inspection and the cleaning, chemical cleaning and all that. There's 2 pieces to it?
That's part of it. We've been in contract with them since 2017. This is just. but
Just the annual
It's just an annual,
Got it.
every 2-year contract.
Okay. This just keeps it cool when it needs to be cool and warm when it needs to be
And
warm?
we've seen both sides.
Yep. Does anybody have any questions? If not, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the annual maintenance contract for Comfort Systems for $78.95.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, carried. Thank you, Ann. Next time, we'll try to give you a little more notice.
Well, actually,
Okay,
let me say that we changed the agenda, because I asked Christie to put contract approvals on here, because we're starting to have a lot more contracts, and we're gonna start putting all contracts in their own category from now on. So, you know, that's why it's not under finance anymore, because it's, this new software that Christie got, it has its own little section for contracts.
It's 3A in mine is talking about the planning and development.
Yeah.
It's in the new one, but not in the old one that's in the box.
And if I could just add something to that, I haven't even talked to you about this, Danny, but the reason all the contracts have to come before the council, even if it's within Danny's authority, is because that's what the law says. They have to be spread upon the minutes. You can approve a bulk of contracts. you know, if you all want to start putting them in a separate
That's-
category, you've all reviewed them before you get here, and then it's not even on the consent agenda to approve that bulk of contracts, you certainly are able to do
So
that.
anything that's already budgeted in the budget, we're gonna put in the contracts, and it's just a formality for the mayor to sign. And also, they need to be in the minutes, like Robin's saying.
So you opened the door on that.
Good.
So I was thinking too, when it gets to my part, we've got the normal things, you know, we have a water system, you know, wastewater treatment plant, and delivery. It seems like, you know, it's almost every month that we have, you know, we've got to replace this gear, we've got to replace this pump, we've got to do what, you know, do this repair, and every time it's 12,000, 13,000, and, you know, that's above Danny's limit. And I, you know, we, all six of us sit up here, and the mayor, and we have a water system that we agreed that we have to have, and that's just part of it. Is there a way that we could maybe streamline that and, you know, kind of fix it so that, you know what, when these parks go out and these things, I mean, yeah, they do move forward and get them going, but I mean, it's like one part that we're replacing, the lead time is 8 to 10 weeks, so
So,
I know
so
you
what
probably
we're
already
working
said.
on is this, Bill, and it's an auditor thing. They want to see the minutes or this, where the council actually approved it, because Christian and I talked about this last week. I'm gonna get with them and see. Anything that's in the budget that you approve in June, if it's a budgeted item like the missions is a separate line item for its own, once it's approved in June, it should be not brought up again unless it's a contract that has to be signed by the mayor. So that's what we're working on now with the auditor, but I have not received word back if they would allow that. Because anything over my limit, they may pull a PO for missions, and they're like, well, where was the minutes that back this up? That's the reason we've been doing it. So I'm gonna ask him if it's his own line item in the budget, is that good enough for you as an auditor?
Sure. Well, I mean, but missions is, you know, it's one of those normal routine things, whereas these other ones are, you know, you've got to do this repair.
Right.
I mean, and how, is there a way to just document it and then we don't have to wait to vote on this? Or is it really necessary that it needs to be voted on?
Well, like the VLR, the D on 7D
Right.
has already been ordered because it was an emergency repair.
Right.
And that falls, we do have a section in the ordinance that says that I can, an emergency, but I have to ratify it at the next council meeting. That's what
Okay.
we're doing tonight. So yes, we do have those. If Brandon comes and says this is a must, then we put on a PO, emergency PO, and then we put it on the agenda.
Sure.
But it doesn't delay us from ordering it.
I will say, I think you could probably list those things, maybe, you know, until we get the answer from the auditor to say, here are the expenditures for, you know, with whatever department you're talking about, this is all within the budget, and here they are, we're just asking for ratification or approval from the council.
If he wants to see it, then probably what we'll do and come in June, we'll have all those listed items.
That's what I mean.
Right.
You could have them all
Yeah,
listed.
at one council meeting, say, these are the budget items, this is the SCADA, the missions, the Tyler Technology contract, all those, and just list them all and vote on them that one time for the whole year. That's what we're working on.
Okay.
And then we're gonna talk about increasing my limit when it gets to me, too.
If we ever get there. Are you done? Okay, good.
We'll move public safety.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
I'm sorry, J-Bo.
Okay, don't kick me off yet. Good evening. So in September, we had Public Safety Day on the town green. And would you put some pictures up for me? I want to show the crowd. I want to thank PD and Fire. We had a tremendous crowd. We had pizza, we did a bike giveaway, you know, food and drinks. And as your public safety chairman, I'll tell you, I was in that dunk tank and I was looking left and right, and just to see the kids and to see how happy they were and the fist bumps and the hugs, and it was a good feeling to see, especially in this, every time you turn on the TV or the Twitter, it just seems like the USA's circling the drain, and to look out there and see the cops and firefighters and these young kids, it gives you hope. So I was really glad to be a part of that, and I do want to thank PD and Fire for just putting on a great show for everybody. The other thing I have for you tonight is Saturday, the Walton County Special Olympics is going to have their donut dash at 9 a.m. It's at Loganville High School. The 22nd, that's Saturday, right? Yep. Okay.
Not this Saturday, next Saturday.
Next Saturday, I'm sorry. Next Saturday, 9 a.m., Loganville High School. It's a very good, fun event to go and check out, and more information is on our website. And that's all I have for you tonight.
Okay, thank you, Jay. You going to share with the group how many times you were dunked?
Probably 200.
I got you once.
I know you were counting them.
And there is an investigation into who put ice in the dunk tank. Leading suspects is Chief Lowry, but he said that he texted me and told me the trail has gone cold, so I think that's a hint.
They also gave a bike away, didn't they?
We did the bike away, yeah.
That's what I thought.
We had live music. Peterson was up there playing the guitar. It's a good time.
He said something about cooling you off.
Yeah.
I guess that did it.
Good time.
Okay, thank you, Jay. Okay, we'll move to Public Utilities Transportation. Chairperson Bill Duvall.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So as we discussed, we've talked about precision planning is preparing the modifications to the ordinances for the stormwater management to enhance it, provide aesthetics, and provide better opportunity for our, to make sure we have a better, more pleasing detention ponds and things. So we all voted to move forward with that, just like we've done with the tree ordinance. The Precision did bring back their proposal. They are working on it, like Danny said, but the proposal in your packets was not to exceed 12,000. We will have some intermediate feedback from them next week, and but the hope is that, not hope, that we will have information to go back and discuss at our November 10th council meeting. Any questions on that? So, no, we're gonna
Okay.
approve it now.
Okay.
So that's what I'd make a motion that we approve the cost not to exceed 12,000 for
Okay,
precision planning.
we have a motion. Do we have a second? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so carried.
Thank you. The second thing on the list is that we wasn't mentioned last time, is we did receive bids, 3 bids for the Destination Park work. And last time we talked about it, we said that we had to have our engineer go through and review the estimate. They've done that. The bid for the lowest responsive bidder was $1,199,998.94, with contingency built in 10%, and also $60,000 for the engineering support from Keck and Wood. That combined total that's in your packet is $1,385,998.83. So anyway, we'd like to accept the bid. Well, the bids, I guess we'd like to accept the bid and proceed with this project. Any questions on that?
Is that a motion?
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the total cost for the Destination Park work of $1,385,998.83.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Carried.
I'd like to, real quick, just jump in. In case some citizen wonders. This was also designed for a full park makeover. This is phase 1. We couldn't come under budget with the full park, so we're doing just the utilities, sidewalks, and the restroom with this first phase. And the memorial garden and maybe some new equipment and a new trail will come in another phase. But this is just for the utilities and the bathroom.
And it's with our Gwinnett SPLOST money from 2019.
Yes.
The third item on our list is the renewal of the Missions Communication Annual Monitoring System. Danny mentioned earlier, it's the SCADA for 2022-2023, so it communicates with the 22 plus pieces of equipment around and all. Anyway, the renewal fee, it's a budgeted item. It's $11,035.80. Any questions on this renewal contract? With that, I'd make a motion that we approve the cost of the renewal for $11,035.85.
Okay, we have a
80 cents.
motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
I have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Move, so move.
So, yeah, item D on our list was this vertical loop reactor gear reducer. We have couple pieces of equipment that needs to be repaired. Well, no, it's one piece, I'm sorry. Yeah, this is a request from the city to have Motion Industries repair a gear reducer in the controls of a vertical loop reactor at the wastewater treatment plant. This cost is $11,434.82. Anything you want to add on that, Danny?
No, we've already, went and proceeded with this, Mike, Brandon? Okay. Yes, this is emergency fix,
Emergency.
so it's already been ordered. Have they fixed it? Okay. Not yet, but it's in the process.
So with that, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the cost for this emergency repair of $11,434.82.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, carried.
And another emergency situation, Highway 21 lift station, the motor has failed. They have the pump station is 17 years old, and the rebuild is quoted at $13,115, and also the impellers is another $13,187.32. This is what I mentioned before about, it's got a quote of 8 to 10 weeks for delivery. Is that, so I'm assuming you've already submitted that invoice to them, Danny, or? Yeah.
Brandon? No, we have not.
No, so what's going to happen in the meantime? Is it,
It's a bypass right now? It's got, so they have alternating pumps in the well, and the way it works normally is one pump will run for a while, then the other one will kick on. Right now, it's running on one pump. If that was a fail, don't worry, we have a backup,
Okay.
a portable backup that we take to the stations that plugs and play. Correct, Brandon? But we don't want to get there.
Well, sewer facilities are not cheap.
so, so with that, I'd like to make a motion that we conduct the repairs of these two quotes as indicated in your packet.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Carried.
Next thing on my list is this utility, permanent utility easement agreement. This is for the cottages. This grants us access to get in and be able to repair the lines, the lift station, or anything like that if something were to happen in the future. It's, as with most easements, it's $1 cash paid out, and this just grants us the right to go in there. What we vote on tonight is allow the city manager to sign this agreement. I guess the question is, Robin, this has been worked out, you've finalized this, or?
We're still waiting on the description of the easement and the property. What I think we'd like to do is ask the council to vote for authority for the mayor to sign it once the easement agreement has been finalized.
Okay, so the mayor's not listed on, grantee, so by the mayor. Gotcha. And then the last one, the last page is about the lender consent. Who signs that?
It'll be whoever owns the
That's
cottage,
them.
yeah. So right now, it's still being developed, so once it gets final platted, this is the formality. So once, I'd imagine, we had the final, we don't have, he's gone. Once it's final platted, then we have the land description, then we sign it, and then it becomes our responsibility to maintain.
Okay. So with that, I'd like to make a motion to allow the mayor to sign the the utility easement agreement once this thing has been finalized by the city and city attorney.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Carried.
have one other thing that I've lost here. I'm sure. So, there's, the week of, the week of the 18th, there's going to be street sweeping in the city. It's 13 miles. Remember, we've got about 57 lane miles, 57 miles in our city, but they're doing about 13 miles. It's going to be Tuesday and Wednesday night. They'll start at 9 o'clock. So this is 78 portions of 78 Main Street, Broad Street, Pecan, and Huntington Drive. Just to let you all know. With that, I'm done.
Is this the once a year? We still working on trying to get it more often?
Yeah, that fell through like a lead
Expensive.
rock.
Okay. Is that a motion?
No, I was in.
That's a FY.
FY.
Okay. Okay. Anything else?
Done. Nope.
Okay, thank you, Bill. We'll move to Public Works. Melanie Long.
Thank you. Only thing I have tonight is just my regular report, the stormwater trash report. They picked up a total of 6 bags for 140 pounds. They were on Bruce Street, Bay Creek Road, McCullers Road, Old Zion Cemetery Road, and Pecan Street. And then our Public Works Department, they made 557 stops last month and picked up 22.25 tons of limbs and debris. And I just want to remind everybody too that all of our meetings are always shown on Facebook. You can find them there. I went back and looked, and last month so far we're about 457 views of our meetings that we hold. So while the room tonight is fuller than it's been in a long time, I appreciate each and every one of y'all that came out to sit here publicly. I also appreciate the people that watch at home. And that is all I have. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, YouTube. What did I say? Facebook, YouTube. I'm sorry. Thank you, Ann. That's all I have.
Thank you, Melanie. We'll move to Economic Development. Brandon Whitfield.
I have no actual items, but I do have some fun events coming up I want to make sure everybody is aware of. The Back to Blue Car Show was last weekend. It was really fun. A lot of people came, and I entered my cars. There was a lot of cars there. It was a lot of fun if you were a car head, or even if you were just wanting to walk around for the day and see some nice old vehicles. Autumn Fest is coming up on October 15th. That is one of our biggest events of the year, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. downtown. There will be no parking this year at the Methodist Church, though. They actually have a funeral that day, so we cannot use that parking lot. So I just want to let everybody be aware of that beforehand. Also, coming up, we have Trick or Treat on Main Street, October 29th, 4 to 6 p.m. And if you have any younger kids, they'll be getting flyers in the mail. Dr. Nathan, he makes sure that all the kids get that in their book bags and all, and so they already know about it. So come on out, bring your kids. It'll be a fun event, as long as you don't mind missing a little bit of the Georgia game. And other than that, I believe that's all I have, Mayor.
But this is the 25th year of that Trick or Treat on Main event,
It is.
so pretty darn impressive.
Oh, yes, and the Loganville Insider Magazine is out. Robbie put some copies in the back. If you haven't got it yet, please get it. This is Barry Ford on the front here, our local Santa Claus, when he was at Maker Studio. A lot of good articles in here. Please check it out.
That's his
Okay.
fake
very
name,
good.
or his real
Thanks,
name is
Brandon.
Santa Claus.
Oh, yeah, I mean, it's Santa Claus.
Santa Claus, yeah. Yes, Santa.
All right, now we'll move to the City Manager Danny Roberts' report.
Always got to take care of them council. All right, thank you, Mayor. I have one thing that needs to be voted on and then one discussion. We have a surplus of equipment that we've collected over the many, many years. This is the first one we've had since probably 2013, maybe 12, when Bill was here. So it's in the back of your packet, all the vehicles. I know the mayor called me and asked if we had the miles, and I said, Mayor, if it's in an auction, it doesn't run. It's got well over 100,000, 200, 300, 400,000 miles. There's some here from 1970s. But there's a lot of vehicles that we need to get rid of, some trailers that are bent, some old machine, lawnmowers. I just need your authority to surplus this equipment, and we're gonna have an auction online. We're gonna use possibly two companies. We're gonna start with Municipid. It's a company that we did some research on. It's ranked number 20th in the nation as far as government sales, so it ranked higher than GovDeals, which everybody's heard of, but we may use them too, it just depends. But currently, Municipid has no one in Georgia bidding, so maybe it'll help us get more bids. So with that, I would ask, and the way that works is whatever the minimum amount for the scrap metal is for a car, which is about $500, that's where we'll have a reserve. And then the way they tell you to bid is 10% of the max. So if it's $500, we'll start to bid at 50, and then with a reserve of scrap metal price. A lot of these cars, that's where they end up going, scrap metal.
So where does the money that is raised from this, does it go back
So
in the general fund? Or
It
does
depends on where it
go?
came from. If it was purchased from the general fund, it'll go in the general fund. Anything from the utilities department, water, WQC, stormwater, sewer, it will go into probably WQC one budget, somewhere in that budget. And then there is one federal that has to go back to the police federal, because it was bought with federal money, so it has to go back to federal. So it still goes to the police department to use, but, and the rest goes to a general fund, just one line item, surplus.
Danny, just for info, who's eligible to bid?
Anyone.
Anyone?
Yep, there's an application that you pay, and I believe it's, the way they get their money is they don't charge us a fee, they charge the buyer, and I believe it's 9% of the amount that it sells for. And then they make contact. Ross, our fleet director, will be the point of contact. They'll have so many days to pick it up. If they don't, then they lose their bid. It has to be certified cashier's check or cash. I don't know if we're doing credit card, because that's can be a pain, but more likely be a certified check or cash.
And the individual or the company, whoever it is, they have to come get the vehicle.
That is correct.
We do not ship.
Between hours we set.
Okay.
Yep.
Very good. It's exciting because it's been a while.
It's been a while.
Our fenced-in area is getting smaller and
Well,
smaller.
we got a new fencing area now behind Fleet that we've created for impound. We're gonna move the impound lot from the fire station at Lee Bird, and we've already built a lot behind Fleet. Yeah, it is. It needs to get going. There's a lot of police cars there and a lot of public utilities equipment there.
But back in the time of the recession, we ran a lot of our police cars to the very end of their lives. So now we can get rid of them for something. Okay, anything else, Danny?
Yeah, so this has came up with, oh, I need a motion first. I'm sorry.
Okay. We need a motion to have the,
Motion to surplus the property.
good. Okay, we have a motion, we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, let's do it.
So this has
Thank you.
came up in the last, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks. Brandon Phillips has came to me. We're having issues with my limit with buying chemicals for the plant. My limit now for the plant is 11,000, and for fuel, my limit for everything else is 7,500. So it's not on the agenda. You don't have to vote on it, but maybe if y'all want to think about it, and we'll do it next month. But I would like to see doubling my general fund limit to maybe 15,000, and then possibly 20,000 for chemicals and fuel, because right now a load of a tractor trailer load of their chemicals, what's the name of the chemical? Pack, is something they use every month. Right now it's 16,000. Yeah, there was another one for 16. So we try to shop around, but nobody really has it. We get it from one vendor. So that's something to think about. If you're okay with it, we can talk about it next month and vote on it, since it's not on the agenda, but just more of a discussion. And this also would help with some of these other issues of coming before y'all with my limit. So I'd say 15,000 for general fund, or for general expenses, even WQC, but for fuel and chemicals, it would go to 20,000.
Danny, didn't we take that to 10,000 a few years ago? I
Took it
think we did.
11,000, I believe.
I think we raised it to 10.
It was
We got-
5,
Yeah.
and then we went to 7,500 for general, and then it was, then went to 10, it was either 10 or 11. I thought it was 11,000. for chemicals and fuel. So,
Do we want a motion tonight?
well, you didn't put it on the agenda, and I hate voting on stuff that's not
Okay.
on the agenda.
We'll put it on November's agenda.
Yeah.
Very good. Anything else?
Harold's birthday was last week, so he's
Sure was.
49 years old, but he's a lot younger than me, so he gets the glory. So, happy birthday again, Harold.
Happy birthday, Harold.
So, yeah,
Yes, he did. A couple days ago, huh?
yep. So, thank you. My
Harold, you
daughter said
want
I
to
was
lead us in a
27,
happy
so-
birthday song?
Harold maybe get it.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear guys. Happy birthday to you. I hope that's recorded.
I hope we all live as long as you do, Harold, because you a young man. You look good.
That's super. Now the truth comes out. How long did it take Janice to sober up? A while. This is not a courtroom. We're just asking. Danny, anything else? Okay. We'll go to our city attorney, Robin Webb, next.
Everyone can breathe a sigh of relief. I have no actionable items this evening. Happy
Very good.
birthday, Danny. And I think that may be, what, the third time we've ever sang happy birthday in a meeting, so,
In the meeting.
yeah. It's a rare but special occurrence.
That's
Thank
good.
you.
You're right. You're right. Okay, then we have a motion that we adjourn this meeting. We have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, meeting is adjourned. However, we are getting ready to go into our comments from the public. So with that said, is there anyone here who would like to share their comments? Okay, come on up and give us your name and address, Tammy, and we'll go from there. And you are aware we have a 3-minute limit. You know that.
No, I know, I'm gonna talk fast.
Okay.
Tam Ashwood, and I live off of Claude Brewer in Loganville. So at the last meeting, I spoke about damages to my neighbor's property as well as my own from a development releasing floods of mud into a branch that flows through our property. Although this development is new, this has been a 15-year battle. There were 2 other developments before this one that did the same type of damages. However, we had no video proof. What we discovered was that you had an employee here for over 5 years that was passing inspections without inspecting the properties. This was told to me by 2 employees of your city government that are present here today. South Fork, the first development, was allowed to operate without silt fences. This was discovered by the fire department that we called for help. South Fork was also given a warning in 2017 for severe violations that stated that the detention pond that sits right above our properties was overgrown, a forest, and completely inoperable. Nothing was done until we discovered this in 2020, took pictures, and made many, many calls and complaints. Repairs were finally made. For years, the water and trash flowed over the pond and into the branch. The current developer has now flooded our property with mud, mulch, large, huge pieces of gravel, and hay for weeks that have filled our culverts. We have proof this time, but none of that has mattered. Even with video evidence, we are written off. An employee of the Gwinnett County Stormwater Division took it upon himself to call Loganville on our behalf after he saw the pictures. The city of Loganville, when speaking with him, referred to me as the old lady that complains about her trash. When I spoke with Chris Williams that same day, an employee of the developer, he stated very angrily, "You and your neighbor, Miss April Heron, think you are so smart, but as soon as you contact anyone with complaints, the city of Loganville calls us immediately. You aren't putting anything over on us." Shame on the Stormwater Division here for not once, but twice, sending a letter to the EPD in Athens, once in 2020 and again in September this year, stating you had checked our complaints and found the problem was not with the building sites, but with our undersized culverts and our lack of maintenance thereof. Our culverts do not cause construction breaches. We worked over a year to clear our culverts from the detention pond problem that we solved. They were more than adequate, even with flooding rains. After we cleared them, they did not overflow, until the current builder flooded them again with mud and gravel. These builders should be required to compensate the homeowners downstream so they can have their culverts enlarged to accommodate the huge increase in water flow coming from the new developments. No help has come our way, as the new tax revenues are far more important than the properties of 3 working-class families. Shame on this entire stormwater division for the lies told here, told to me, and the inadequate or total lack of inspections done. And shame on the city government for allowing this to continue.
Very
Thank
good,
you.
Tammy. Thank you. You did get a chance, I think, last month's meeting to talk to some of these folks. So we appreciate the comments. Okay? Anyone else? Okay. Well, you live in the community.
No, you're fine. I'm not going to speak. I just wanted to give you guys a flash drive. This actually shows the damage that she's talking about, the clear cutting that was done out at the job site, of the mud that was blown into the creek. So I just wanted to give you guys a copy of that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Have y'all cleared the culverts? Has Joe cleared his?
I've been in there working,
Good girl.
and we have heard nothing. It's very, very hard work.
It is hard work. Okay? Janice, you do know we got the 3-minute limitation. I have to share that with you
You know, I
personally.
like to talk.
I know
I
you
really
do.
do. But I
You
do
got 2
want
minutes
to,
and 54 seconds.
okay, I really do want to thank the Loganville Police Department for all they have done for Walton County Special Olympics. They started years ago with the Donut Dash, and at that time, we were just about broke. And if they hadn't started helping us when they did, I don't know what we would have done because we just were running out of money. But they have been so good to us all these years. We have other sponsors that are very, very good too. But right now we have over 300 children in Walton County in Special Olympics. And we went from, let's see, I think 70 something when Harold and I started to, right now we have 377. And Social Circle, we now have a member of our committee from there, and they're going to be joining us because they've never had anybody in charge before. And we're real excited that she's going to come, and the children from there will be able to join us with all of our events. I just do want to take a half a minute, okay? Our budget last year, the money that we paid out was $38,000. That money is made by the 6 people, or sometimes we have 7, that meet at my house the first Tuesday night of each month. Thank God that we have sponsors, because I don't know how we'd get the money otherwise. We pay everything that our children do. The state Special Olympics pays absolutely nothing for us. We have to pay for our kids to go to state games. And it's real exciting when you see these children and the progress they make and the fun they have. So if you've never been, try to come this year. I think we're going to get to go back to normal after the pandemic. And it's so exciting when you see these children be able to do little things that you do every day. And that we want to help them do that. So I just want to say a very, very special thank you to the Loganville Police Department tonight, because they have been absolutely wonderful to us.
Is that event going to be in Monroe High School again?
I think the games will. The Donut Dash is
I know it's here. It's Loganville High School, right.
only cost a little bit to walk or to run, and $100 to sponsor, so it's.
They will do very well.
Yeah, to me, right at $7,000, the county uses this for.
Transportation. Mhm. Mm. Okay, thank you, Janice. Your time just ran out, so you did perfect. Any other comments?
So I would like to say it's unfortunate that if there are breaches, there are situations where, stormwater can from a development can bleed onto other properties. That's not what we're looking for. Georgia stormwater can be called out. They have been called out on the Claude Brewer site. EPD as well for DNR can be called out as well. I think they were called. I don't know that they actually came, but I do want to say though that Bill Brazel has been here several years now. I don't remember how many years, but 5 years now, and he's taken on the city's parts doing a good job, doing what we have to do on our side as far as visiting sites, identifying when when the contractor's not doing what they're supposed to be doing. But his job is to tell them, hey, you've got to add this. I mean, they've got to keep ground cover. They got to have their BMPs employed, and it's an evolving thing as the construction goes on. But I want to say that I do appreciate the work that our people are doing for the city.
Okay, very good. How many of you have ever been to Destination Park with kids? Isn't it going to be great to have restrooms? For our city, that's almost a miracle. That Shell station can now shut down their restrooms, I guess. Okay. With that said, no other comments? Meeting is now adjourned, and thank everybody for being here.